Hello, my name is Corey, and I would like to welcome you back to the Clater House. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I've been working on an upcoming client project, and I'm so close to wrapping it up. I'm excited to share it with you. Next week is my goal, but while I finish up all the little touches, the curtains, the artwork, the lamps, all of those types of things, while the last few items are being installed, I figured this week I would take you antique shopping with me for a few items for the custom library wall that I built. Now, I'm not looking for a ton since it is a library wall. We want it to mostly be books, but I do want to source a few items and take you through an antique store that I haven't been in a while, but usually has pretty good stuff. Also, in my last video, I built an upholstered Ottoman, and one of you had a question about it. So I'm going to touch on that and walk you through some quick styling tips for an Ottoman later in this video as well. So I hope you enjoy this vlog and coming antique shopping with me. The first piece I saw as soon as I walked in was this architectural sketch. I absolutely loved the matting and I loved the frame. Next to that in the same room were these hanging plates. I loved that they were a true black and a cream. And also the lines weren't super crisp. It was kind of like the ink had bled on the design, which I really liked. I think hung in like a moody cottagey kitchen, grouped with like a basket hung on the wall with them, would look really nice. And then in a booth off of that one was this bowl here. I liked the detail on it and I really liked the color. I thought it could be really nice to pull some of the tans from our rug up into the bookshelves. And then in that same booth, there was this picture here that was definitely a little bit more orange, but I think it could achieve the same goal. It just had a really nice shape to it, but it was definitely a little bit more orange than tan. And then still in that same booth, they had a lot of little ceramics, like these little crocks with the lids and the handles. This set I thought was really cute. And then also there was this crock here that had like a reddish, purplish, iridescent glaze to it. At one point, it looks like it had a lid, but I like it just as is without the lid. I love the color and I think it's a really nice shape. I thought it could be a great bud vase and it was only $5. Speaking of little items, another booth had this precious little pitcher. I loved the shape of it. I loved the shape of the spout coming off of it. I loved the color. I did end up leaving this piece behind, but now watching this back, I do wish I would have picked it up and I may have to go back for it, especially with it only being $6. I came across this large jug. This thing was so big. It had a substantial handle. It didn't have any chips or dings or scratches, but it did have a nice patina on it. You could see the age, and it was only $30, which I thought was an awesome price for the size of this thing. Then there was this wooden bowl tray thing. It was also around $30. And although I don't think it was actually antique, whoever made it did a good job at making it look distressed and look aged and antiqued. I loved all of the wear on it and the handles on the sides. I think there would be a lot of good styling opportunities for this piece. And then in that same booth, there was this basket here. It was a harvest gathering basket at one point, but it was a great size and it was $40, which baskets like these, especially in this size, you normally see for like $60. So I thought it was a good price for the size of this basket. And then in another booth, I saw this basket, another great size, for only $14. With Halloween coming up, I came across these decoupage little orbs with the eyeballs on them. I thought they would be super fun for seasonal decorating, but I did leave these behind. I then came across this large butcher block and you could really see the age and the wear on this. I don't know that I would actually use it in my own kitchen for anything, but in a greenhouse as a potting table or on a porch as a potting table, I think could be a really cool way to repurpose this that would look really beautiful. And then right next to that was this feed barrel made of wood and it was only $20. The lid did not fit on this super well anymore. more, but if you had a really rustic style, I think this could make an interesting end table. Like if you had a slip-covered linen couch, I think this could look really nice next to that as a side table. I then came across this vase with these faux florals glued in. I absolutely loved the vase itself. I love the shape, I love the glaze. However, I did not love the faux florals, and it did not seem like they would come out super easy, like they were in like cement or epoxy or something in the bottom. If the flowers could come out, I think this would make a really, really nice piece. And then in that same booth, there were a bunch of these half-quart crocks. I think these are a great size for keeping on your kitchen counter. You could take your rings off and throw in them, or like, especially your garlic, they'd be a great size for like keeping 3 to 4 garlic bulbs in, just making sure you clean them really well first. But they were a nice, simple shape. I liked the color, and like the detail of the lip was really nice. And then right above those was this bean pot that I also liked the color of and the speckles of, as well as this crock down here that I loved the shape on. And I liked that it was glazed like a brownish red inside and then white on the outside. In a nearby booth to that was this vinegar bottle. It still had the old cork in it. And while I don't know that I would store vinegar in it now, I think it could be really cool in a greenhouse as well, either as a propagation bottle or if you filled it with water and used to water your plants with. I think it could be a great, beautiful repurposing of this piece. And then again, I came across another crock that the crock itself was really lovely, but again, had these faux florals secured down in it somehow that if you could remove, the crock would be nice on its own. There was also this wooden bowl with the feet on it. Again, this wood piece was not actually vintage. It was recently hand carved by someone, but I think it could also be really nice on your counter for something like garlic or your onions. But I think just in general, this could be a really nice styling piece. Also a newly carved piece was this large 5-foot by almost 3-foot dough bowl. While I was very impressed with this and the idea that a community could come and work in this bowl at one time together to prepare a meal, but with the way we live now, I don't know that you would use this that same way. I really loved this English writing desk. I thought the finish on it had the perfect amount of age. I loved the hardware on the drawer. I usually don't like things that are super ornate, and I thought this had just the right amount of detail for me personally. I think this is still in great condition to be used for a desk, but I think it could also be used for like a potting table or something. You would just have to be okay with it taking some water damage. I also liked this piece of furniture. I didn't love the tin sheets on the front. I would have preferred it to just be wood, but I really liked the way that they styled it with this artwork above it. I wish it was more centered. I could totally see this styled just like this in someone's house. It would be great for storing bed sheets or tablecloths or dishes or just storing anything really. It'd be great for it. But I even love the specific art they chose with it. I thought the colors paired nicely with both of the ceramic pieces on top, and I liked that the 2 ceramic pieces were different in both color and shape. This booth had a lot of books. I talked about in my home goods shopping video about a month ago about, rather than like the storage books that they had specifically for Halloween, using vintage books from an antique store, and this one had a lot of really beautiful ones. They had the nice fabric binding, they had some in sets, they had all different colors. I think books like this are really great for styling, not just at Halloween, at any time of the year, but you could always read them as well if they're on a subject matter that you love. And this particular booth at this antique store always has so many. I then came across this horn canister, and if it were not a canister, I probably would have grabbed it just as the horn itself. For some reason, I love horns and antlers and feathers and those types of things from the natural world. I think they're really beautiful as long as they were sourced ethically and naturally fell off an animal or came off of one that had already passed by natural causes. Nearby, there were these beautiful wooden legs. They came off of a grand piano, but I think it would be really nice if you could get a custom table made and use these as the legs. I don't know if they're tall enough for a dining table, but like a coffee table or just some kind of custom piece of furniture using these as the legs. As long as you can make the wood look like it matched the age of these legs, or if you use like a stone top for it, I think could just be really, really beautiful and a really special piece. This was another booth that had a ton of books, and they always do, but my favorite part about this booth is this rug. I always ask if I can buy it because I think it is beautiful, but it's not for sale. One book I came across in particular in this booth that I think would be awesome for Halloween was this like emerald green one with the gold inlay and then the stars along the spine I thought were really magical. And then also in that same booth was this beautiful ceramic teapot. I thought it was really interesting. I loved the color and I loved the shape. Another outdoor piece was this candlestick holder. It was a lily pad up top and then a little frog along the bottom. If you often do outdoor entertainment, I thought this could be a really cute piece to hold a taper candle outside with your supervision. It could be really whimsical and magical, and I don't entertain outside very often, but I do wish I would have gotten this piece. I also loved this brass lion door knocker. If you had like a black front door, I think this would just be stunning. I also came across another half court crock. This was a newer piece. A lot of the ceramics in this booth were new by a local artisan, but I loved the brown rib and the detail painted along the side here. In the same vein as outdoor dining, there was this MCM wicker tray with wicker tongs. I loved these glasses, the texture along the outside. I don't know that I would want to use the wicker tongs to grab ice cubes to put in a drink or to grab food, but I did think this set was really fun. Some of my favorite pieces in the whole store were these frames, particularly this bottom one, but both frames had a little bit of chips on the edges, which personally I don't mind because it shows that they've had a life, but I think they are just stunning. They're not overly ornate, but they do have some details and just a beautiful oil painting or a sketch. I loved these frames. I then came across this brass apple that I've seen there before, but I didn't actually realize was a bell. I thought the stem and the leaf on top were really cute, and I just thought this was another great little piece. In comparison, there was this massive olive jug. I didn't love the painting on the outside of it. I would have preferred it to be the brownish color on the bottom all the way along it, but I thought the size of this was so impressive. I also really liked this silver biscuit jar, or in the US, it would be a cookie jar. But I really liked the age on it. I loved seeing the tarnish in the silver, and I thought it just had the right amount of detail in it. Way in the back of this same booth, they have these taxidermied butterflies and dragonflies, and they used to have some beetles as well. I think they're so beautiful. Again, if they passed of natural causes, I just think they are a beautiful way to honor our natural world. We're surrounded by so much beauty, and I think this is an amazing way to honor it, especially if you are a scientist or biologist or entomologist. I think they could be a really cool personal touch. Of all of them though, I loved this scorpion. It was a little pricey, but I'm not gonna find this very often, so I didn't grab this piece, but I may have to go back for it because I just think it is so cool. My husband is a Scorpio, so whether you believe in astrology or not, I think it would be a cute way to represent him in our home without directly having a picture of him, tying that aspect of him into our space. I think it'd be personal, but honestly, I think it is just really cool. And I think it was a great piece to come across as my shopping trip was coming to a close. back from antique shopping and I figured I would do a quick haul of the things that I got. I did get a few items for myself, but primarily I got items for the client, and then I got some items with the intent of using them in the project with the knowledge that they may not work, so being okay with them coming to me and being mine if they don't work in that space. So I'm gonna briefly go through, I'll tell you the price and who it is for. Starting out with the biggest item. If you remember in my last antique shop with me and haul, I got a jug for the first time, and what did I say? I said, I don't have any jugs, so this commences my jug collection. So the jug collection continues. This one is bigger than the other one. The handle's a little bit different, and then rather than being more matte, this one does have more of a shiny glaze to it. Let's see, it was $30. This big thing, 30 bucks for this, had to grab it. I'm not finding this for that price anywhere else. So first item. In the same category of jugs, I did get this little jug for, this one is for the client. It was the one that was styled with the little half crock on top of that wood piece of furniture with the metal paneling on the front, and it had like the artwork up above it. I grabbed this piece. It was $38, which I will say is a little expensive for something like this. I normally would not pay that for this, but this is a unique glaze and a unique shape. I don't see this color on Crocs very often, and I don't often see this shape of jug. So I did pick it up for the client. Next was another item for myself personally. It was this wood tray here. I have one kind of like this, but it doesn't have the detail along the edges. And this one is a darker stain. And this one, although I don't think it actually is vintage or antique or anything like that, it looks more like it than the other one that I have. The other one I can tell was new and made to look antique, which is fine, and I like that one as well. But this one just feels a little bit more like actually antique. So this one is for me, particularly for my fall and Christmas decorating. Some chestnuts in here, or pine cones, or even just like my coasters on my table. Love. Oh, and it was $26. Next, there was this crock, and this is for the client. I like that it has a slight curve at the top and the way that the lip is, and then around the bottom it is unglazed and you can see the clay. I got this for the client, for the bookshelves. It was $20, and it's just a good medium-sized crock. I know this is gonna work really well for the project, and if not, it's one I would be happy to have in my own house, but great medium size and a great tall, skinny shape. Another item for the client was this itty bitty little crock that I thought could be really nice as like a bud vase. Like put it on in the bookshelves on a little book with like one large flower coming out of it, like a single peony coming out of this would look so good. Or like a set of 2 lilies coming out with like the stem cut really short could look really nice in this guy. It's just a cute little bud vase. It has like a iridescent-y shine to the glaze, and it was $5. Another small item for the client is this apple bell. It is a bell, but I will not use it as a bell. It'll just be kind of like a little figurine. This client, she's a teacher, so I thought this was appropriate. We have brass accents throughout, so I figured this little brass apple was gonna be great. Again, it would have to be kind of styled with some other things. So like, think of it like on a book, you have this crock kind of beside it, and the crock has some flowers coming out, something like that. Or if there's like a story like Snow White that has an apple motif in the story somehow, or even on like the Twilight books, like on the cover of one of them, there's like an apple. So like something like that, a book that has something to do with an apple, you could have a cute little touch of like adding this on top of that stack or nestled in somewhere. So this is cute. This was a little bit more pricey. It was $16, but I've seen it there before prior to starting this project with the client, because They're a family member. I knew them before. I saw this there like a year ago and thought that it would be cute for them, but didn't want to like add to their space or get them something if it didn't have a place. And now I have created the place for the apple to go. So got this little guy with the stem and the leaf. Also for the client, another small to medium-sized item for the shelves is this ceramic bird. I think it's supposed to be a rooster, but it could really just represent any bird. It's got a nice like brownish green colored glaze with like some speckles in there. And then the face is brass. This client loves birds, as we saw with the quail salt and pepper shaker figurines that were in there. But those I nestled up in the books. This will be more for like styling on that bottom counter shelf thing. And this will be the end of the birds. It's gonna work there. This is one that is not my style, so I would not want this to come back to my house. So I'm hoping that it works, and I'm pretty sure it will, and I'm sure that the client will love it. I know she'll let me know when she sees this, but it was $12.50. My last small item, which is actually for me, was one of these half quart crock. Nice simple little lip on it. It was pretty clean on the inside. Like you saw in the video, there were 3 of them, but one of them was like really dirty on the inside, and this one seemed to be the cleanest. So I did get this one, and just like I was talking about with that item, I got this for my kitchen to store garlic in. I didn't realize you weren't supposed to store garlic and onions in your refrigerator, and that's where I always keep mine. So my garlic will now be moving into this little guy on my counter right next to my oil dispenser and my utensils, and it was only $12. Staying in the ceramics vein, but with a bowl instead of like a crock or a vase or a jug, I got this bowl. I liked that it was cream with some black stripes. It was nice and clean on the inside too. I mean, you can always clean your antique pieces up, but it's always a plus if it's already seems kind of clean. But I got this for the client project. I did get this for them, and this is a piece I don't know if it's gonna work, if we can find a place for it, but I got this for the shelves. I did get a little basket to store the remotes for like the ceiling fan and the LED lighting in the bookshelves. Got a little basket to keep on the bookshelves to store those in, but this is another thing too that doesn't have a lid, that like those remotes could fit in here and you could have it on a shelf and like walk in and grab them out, and they're easy access. So, or it could just stand alone by itself too. But I got this guy, and it was also $12. And then my last item was this crock here. It was labeled as a black crock, but it is more like a dark brown. But I love, love, love the shape of it. You can tell at one point it had a lid, but I like it just without the lid. I like that it's straight up, has a little bit of a round, and then the lip at the top. Thought it was lovely. This would be perfect for some flowers, especially ones with big blooms, or even just like branches from a tree could come out of this. And because the top of it comes in, it would help support those really nicely. Or it could just stand on its own and it's lovely just as it is. I did get this for myself. If it works in the client project, I may part with it, but probably not. This is an item that I would personally love to keep if at all possible, but it was another item that was a little bit more than what I would have liked to have spent on it. It was $36, which isn't terrible, but normally I would only prefer to pay like $20 to $25 for something like this. However, I did love it. It is one of a kind-ish. I know there's other ones like it out there, but like you can't just go to Target and buy this, so it's a unique piece. It already existed in the world. It was not newly manufactured, so it's better for the planet. And speaking of Target, I would rather spend $10 to $15 more on something like this that is more one of a kind. It's got chips and dings, like you can tell it's had a life. It has its own personality, rather than something from Target, which is a little bit more polished, doesn't have as much character. anybody could have in their home and something that I'm gonna get bored of in 2 years and wanna donate. This is a piece I'm gonna want forever. It's been around probably as long as I've been alive, and I'm gonna have it with me now for the rest of my life, and it will outlive me. So sometimes to me, it is worth it to spend a little bit more on some of the vintage and antique pieces rather than the newest thing at Walmart or Target. Not that those things are bad, but just sometimes it's more worth it to me to invest a little bit more. But that was the haul. That's everything that I got at the antique store. I may need some more items for these shelves, but the client, she keeps ordering books to fill the shelves, and with it being a library, I'd rather there be books in there anyway. So we'll see if hopefully the pieces I got work, if we need more, if we don't have room for them. That is to be determined at a later date. Now that I'm back home, and before I close out this video, I wanted to address a question that one of you asked in the comments on my last video. If you watched my last video, I built this upholstered ottoman for an upcoming client project, and I'm getting ready to take it to the project. But before I did, I wanted to address the comment, which was how to style an upholstered ottoman. Now, in that video, I kind of threw out an idea, but I never like fully represented it. And honestly, in the upcoming video, although I will probably style it, it won't be like overly styled or like a full-on styling tips video for like the ottoman. So I wanted to take this casual opportunity to talk through that a little bit. Now, because it is an ottoman and not a coffee table, I probably would not style it very much. Honestly, like maybe it would have a blanket thrown over it, but just in general, styling ottomans is not really my favorite thing. It just kind of looks weird to have like things that aren't soft goods on top of like a soft good, you know what I mean? And then also just in my house personally, I have 3 dogs. Anything I put on top of this, like this little one, she's already tried jumping up on this thing. So I could not put vases or like anything breakable on top of this thing without it getting knocked off. Same thing if you have kids, like anything you put on top of this or on top of a coffee table, even for that matter with kids, is likely to get knocked off. So for me, I would just leave it unstyled. But if I were to style it in my house, I would kind of do something like what I have here. I just have some books kind of on top. I do have like a little tray here, but I would just keep it low. That way, like if this one were to jump up on top and knock a book off, it's not gonna break. Or like this is a brass tray, it's not a ceramic tray or anything, like it's not gonna break. So this would probably be the extent. But even this, like sitting and reading and like putting your feet up, this doesn't leave much room for that. Also, ottomans typically function as additional seating. So just having to move stuff off every time you have a guest over so they can sit on it just isn't the most practical. But in addition to this styling here with just a couple of books, maybe a little item, you could also style it like a coffee table. Starting with the books to give stability for your items sitting on top, so they have a flat surface. You could do a couple of different stacks of books at varying heights, and then starting on your lowest level, I would do, like I have here, just a tray on it, or you could just leave it blank. You don't have to put anything there. If it was a coffee table, you could put a candle. I would not necessarily put a candle on an upholstered piece of furniture. And then I would go to my tallest level and do a large vase with either some real or faux florals to take up a lot of space up in the air above it, and then kind of finding a piece in the middle to bridge the gap between those, doing maybe like a smaller vase in a different shape but complementing colors. Or again, I wouldn't light candles, but you could put some candlesticks on here just to be decorative and create that extra height. If you wanted to keep it more simple and omit the books, you could do a tray in the center with the vase in it and maybe another item or two. If you wanted to pare it back a little bit, you could just put a couple of books just on the tray with maybe your reading glasses and some coasters so you can have some coffee or tea while you sit and read and keep it on the tray. Or to really pare it back, you could just throw a blanket over the edge of it, just drape it really nicely and just have a nice, simple, inviting place that people feel like they can just come sit down on, or you feel like you can come and just grab a blanket, sit down in your chair and recline your feet on the ottoman. You can really just treat it however you're going to use it. Like I said, you could style it just like you would a coffee table, or in my case, I would prioritize function and use it as additional seating or a footrest and not put anything on top of it that my dogs are gonna knock off. It's really up to you and how you use your house and your space. I just realized that I never actually filmed an outro to this video, so I hope you enjoyed coming antique shopping with me and you got some helpful tips for styling an ottoman or even your coffee table. I hope you will consider subscribing if you have not, and come back next week for hopefully the final reveal of the project that I have been working on. Also, leave me a comment below letting me know your favorite piece that either I actually did buy or something that I pointed out while shopping that you would have purchased yourself. Until next time, I am wishing you all my best.